Good to see you all.
And it is good to be seen.
Indeed, and to be seen here with Adam too, from Series 7 of Great British Sewing Bee. Hey, Adam.
It's lovely to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on, because we were in certainly the first 2 or 3 episodes, we were loving you and the blokes that were on there too with Damien. So it's great to have you here. You're one of our favourites, if we're allowed to say.
I do feel privileged, I must say. You've had Damien on just, haven't you, on one of your episodes?
Yeah. A couple of weeks back. So we're really excited to have you. I know it's in the past. We'll have a quick chat about last year. You've just gone on snowballed since the end of the season, doing loads of things.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying sewing, Stuart, actually. Surprisingly, it didn't scar me for life after, being challenged with a time pressure. But no, I've made the decision not to go back on cruise ships for the moment.
Wow.
I know. So I'm kind of wanting to settle down a bit. I'm growing up and being sensible, and sewing has just taken off since the show. And
brilliant.
Yeah, really grateful for the opportunity it's given me.
Now, last year we had John on as well, John Scott, on one of these shows. You've been with him on Sewing Street. Now, what's that like?
Oh, I love it. Sewing Street wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for John Scott. And he was messaging me after we'd finished our series, and he said, would you like to come on? Would you like to come on? And I was like, yeah. Like, I love presenting and stuff. And then to combine that with sewing, and I have a regular gig there every month now, which is fabulous. But John's just a wealth of knowledge. He's really supportive, and he really knows his stuff, and he's really helped me out along the way.
You're a natural on the screen, and I think you came across as a natural during Series 7. How much of a performer were you when you were on your other job on the cruise liners?
When I was moonlighting.
Yeah.
I think performing's always ran in the family. My nan was a singer. And she worked with Larry Grayson back in the day. Shut that door.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's awful. But no, I think growing up watching musicals and things was a big thing for me, and I think that's kind of where the costume and sewing element came from. Nobody really taught me how to sew as a youngster. It's just something that I was fascinated with costumes. And when it comes to like any event like Halloween or whatever, which will tie in nicely with today, actually. Was sewing up an outfit out of an old pair of curtains, inspired by Julie Andrews at the Sound of Music.
Brilliant.
All the shapes cut out of your curtains when you do
it. Yeah, something like that. You can't do that these days. We have fancy blinds, don't we?
Oh, it's brilliant. And of course you're doing teaching as well. You're going into shops. Shops are getting you in and you're teaching stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, I do a little bit for Sew Ab Fab in Rutland, in Oakham. And I've just done a little bit with Jules with Sew Me Something. And I've got some planned with Alison from Sew Wardrobe. Doing a lot of teaching, actually. It was on my last one, I was teaching how to insert a concealed zip.
Oh, which obviously we're all masters of, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. I have managed to sew one zip in my sewing life. I'm trying to avoid them wherever possible.
Well, I know you need a class with Adam. Let's talk about some of your makes from Series 7. Episode 1, which is, I think, kind of overwhelmed us. Certainly Raf with, because it was the buffet dress, with his hand-dyed one. Yours was this beautiful, it was like a paisley print, but it had those sleeves. Can you remember the sleeves? The open sleeve, and it tied up at the wrist, but what do you call it? An open seam?
Just a slashed sleeve, really. Yeah.
But it was Esme saying on the votes, don't know whether you can remember, because it was really sexy. And she said, oh, wouldn't it be a shame if you just tied it up at the top and hidden it because it's kind of nicer, sexier when you undo something to find it. And I thought,
I'm giving too much away, maybe too much elbow for one side.
that's it. But it was a stunner, and we came away with that looking at your dress and then Raf's buffet dress, just blown away. And that was episode 1. Episode 2, you won the transformation challenge with Ting, and you'll be able to remember this. They had to they had to make a sundress, and it was, do you call it like a halter neck? And it was out a pair of shorts, it was men's beach shorts.
Oh yeah.
And you had this cool panel at the front, sort of on the hut, the one in the middle.
The rest of the world, on the hut is a very Suffolk phrase.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it was on the wonk.
On the wonk. Yeah.
On the wonk, all right.
Did you remember much about that one, Adam?
Oh, gosh, yeah. Those transformation challenges, I know that they divide opinion quite a bit. And I'm a massive advocate for them in some ways, in terms of, for me, it kind of allowed to go back to what is a very intuitive way of making patterns and designing, and that's draping. And that was kind of my tactic. Sorry, I've got a little friend here.
Oh, that's all right. Who's that? Who is it?
It's our dog, Rufus.
Oh, yeah.
But basically, yeah, the shorts, it was really difficult because that fabric was really difficult to work with anyway, and there's not much of them.
No.
They were, for anybody that wants to know, they were genuine second-hand ones. Like, I can assure.
I hope they'd had a wash.
Yeah, I was kind of.
Don't want that round your neck, do you?
But it was like, well, what can you do with these? And it's just like playing on the mannequin for me, where I find it most intuitive to drape. But yeah, I was so surprised at even winning it, because I think I remember saying something like, it's just a load of old shorts. Esme said, you look surprised. And I was like, yeah, because like...
Yeah, but I think, as you say with that round, you just got it, because it was just the way you cut them and re-pasted them back together. It seemed so simple, yet it's just stood out. And in that 90 minutes, that's a lot of work.
This is it, and it always makes you laugh a little bit, because like the judges might go, oh, I can tell you've really thought about this. Yeah. And a lot of the time it's a happy accident. I'm not going to lie, like you just understand. And it's like, yeah, but it's having that impulse, I think, to be able to respond to something that happens when you're draping and to go, yeah, that looks good, or no, it needs to go somewhere else. Do you know what I mean?
Being able to drape for that challenge is the key skill there, because if you can pull apart whatever they've given you, coat, shorts, whatever, then you just throw it on and start messing around with it. If you can do that, then I think that's where the successful sewers have been. Whereas I would just be panicking that I've just got a pinafore dress in front of me and I don't know what to do with it.
I would have panicked for this week. So
yeah. Let's talk about the Baker Boy cap. That was a favourite of many people last year.
Well, and you.
Well, I love. I had to make it, and then of course you've gone on to then make your own pattern, which I've made. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so that challenge was quite special for me. I remember in that pattern challenge it being one of the ones where I placed quite higher than I had been. But the lady that encouraged me to go on to the show actually is my old teacher from way back when. We were sewing scrubs together, and long story short, she said, you should apply for this.
Oh.
And I was like, I'll never get on it in a million years. And left it to the last minute, and I went, yeah, go on then, I'll apply. And I filled it out and had a phone call the next day. So anybody watching that's thinking about doing it, anything can happen, just go for it. Anyway, I'm digressing, but the hat, she makes a lot of hats herself that she ships to America and stuff. So it's quite sentimental that we have a hat. And after doing the show, the ones we made were made to fit mannequins, the heads that we had, which are quite significantly smaller than my fonts. So basically, I wanted to, have a hat, and it really inspired me. And I came home and I wanted to make one that fit me. So that's what I did. And then I got onto Sewing Street, and they were asking, did I have any patterns? I was like, well, I've drafted myself a hat. And then I just developed it, and put my first sewing pattern out there.
And it's great because there aren't, everyone was searching during that episode, and there are no real patterns out there, so it's filled the gap. I'll put the link in the description below because it's on your Etsy page, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. But I do love that, and I've loved that about this year's actually, that there's some different things coming in, like the quilted jackets that we saw last week. Have been a big thing on Instagram, I think, for a while. You've seen a lot of people make, and it's now filtered through into like mainstream, if you like, on the BBC. So no, it's nice to see different things, and a little bit of patchwork and quilting, which sewing's not just dressmaking.
No, well, and for us, we love that because that was our speciality. Well, we can't finish our little roundup of viewing last season without talking about Children's Week, where we sadly lost you, and how ironic that we've got you on for Children's Week this week.
I know, you meanies.
As we were watching it, and we were because it was the made to measure, that's where everything went. It seemed, well, the way it was edited, it seemed to go just pear-shaped for you. There was issue after issue after issue. How really, if you can remember back to then, how actually was it?
It was, I knew all the way through it. I had this churning in my stomach that it was just not happening. And it's like any sewer, if you're not feeling it or have an off day, and I think, I don't want to make excuses because it was what it was, and I'd practiced my raincoat at home, but I hadn't practiced it in the fabric. And the reason being was that it was really expensive fabric, which was more upsetting that I made a dog's dinner of it. But I had the idea there, and I knew exactly what I wanted to create, but I find that Children's Week tends to be the point where the timing for the made to measure gets shorter. It always seems a little bit less than what you have in the other. I think because you're making a smaller garment, there's something this may be that it takes less time. But actually it can be more fiddly. And I just time managed wrong. And then by the end of making the jacket, I was laughing because what wasn't aired really was that I had a real struggle with the tool to put
not that thing again.
Was it the buttons?
I couldn't find myself out of paper bag. Do you know what I mean? So one of them, like, if it looks like it should belong in a shed, it shouldn't belong in my sewing kit. I was like, I'm just not accustomed to this. And it actually, me and Joe between us broke the tool. So at the top of the kid's jacket, there was like what looked like a metal shard. It was from the tool in the top. The most devastating thing for me, I think the thing that upset me most is the little lad was so cute. It was all the kids, the kids models are absolutely fantastic, so well behaved and do such a good job. And I just wanted to have a decent garment for him. And the fact that I didn't, I think that upset me more than leaving.
Oh, bless.
Well, the concept was lovely, wasn't it? This because it was raincoats, jackets, and you had the yellow and blue and the whistles at the bottom, but the
thing is you're right, and it doesn't matter what you're sewing. If you have a bit of an off day, you would have just walked away and gone, I'm going to do that tomorrow. But when you've got to do it in 4.5 hours or whatever it is, you have no choice, and then it just seems to snowball and everything starts to go wrong, and your seams don't match up, and like you say, things just keep going wrong, and there's nothing you can do. Whereas any other time you just go, well, I'm going to put that down and I will come back to that when I'm feeling a little bit better.
That's it. Therefore, I get to a stage now where it's like, I've got to unpick that seam. I'll go and make a cup of coffee or something and I'll leave it, because I know that if I start getting angry with it or frustrated, then I'm just going to make a mess of it even further.
Yeah. You start having flashbacks of Esme and Patrick.
Yeah.
Well, we were gutted because it then put you, it would just round 1 and round 2 didn't really seem to matter because it was just like, oh no, and then you went and it was a bit of a God moment.
But I think that's the thing now.
Yeah.
You know, the standard is so high, as it always is on the show, and like everybody has their own strength. And I think that it's coming more down to, I know particularly during our season, it was like, well, if you don't finish, that's you got. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you say that, but on your season, someone got quite far without finishing quite a lot of it that I wasn't very happy about.
Oh dear, I've touched on a nerve.
It's fine. It's Ting. He's always got something. It's okay.
Well, it's been great talking about last season. Let's talk about this season now then. And it happens to be Children's Week all over again. So let's go straight into the pattern challenge, everyone. The pattern challenge was wonderful. I don't know about you, but it was lovely to make a mini sailor suit. And we know your love for the waves. You must have been loving this, Adam.
I was like, nautical fabrics. I'd be.
I thought of you straight away, and I was like, well, I feel really bad that we asked him on for Kiddies Week, but then at the same time, it was like, this is the perfect outfit.
Yeah. It was quite a challenging pattern. Like that was fiddly, and especially with the
ribbon as well. And
yeah, I was like, wow, that's intense.
Lots of little bits.
Yeah, really fiddly, and to get those like. Anyway, sorry. Would you like to progress?
No, we're in it. We're talking.
And it was like every other challenge. It was about the fabric choice as well, because when a couple of them were made up, and like they turned around and said, they did look like pajamas. I'm sorry, they did, because of the way they hadn't thought about perhaps what should be contrasting and what shouldn't be.
Yeah, but some of them absolutely nailed it. I thought Mani's was fabulous, and I loved Jill's as well. I really like that. But yeah, that would definitely be a job I would do over definitely a couple of weeks, and do a wee bit, go have a cup of tea, forget about it for a while. I would probably ignore the ribbon or get wider ribbon so I don't have to lose my mind.
When the challenge starts, Adam, and everyone rushes to the haberdashery and choose fabric, is that literally the way, or did you think, right, I'm going to step back, and if I was doing this, I'd think about the fabric first and have 10 minutes or so, or do you just literally go for it?
I think when you've been handed the pattern, your mind automatically goes to like which fabric would be best, and you suddenly, there's 100 things happening at once in your head, and you're like scanning those shelves thinking, okay, which one. But there were occasions where you feel like you've got to go straight away to the haberdashery and go and choose your fabric. But then I think as it progresses, there are a couple of times where I go, right, I'm just going to read my pattern. I'm just going to go back, read through my pattern. All the way through, and then
all the way through. Oh no, Adam,
the pattern all the way through.
Adam, you sided with him. What are you doing, Adam?
Do you guys not do that?
They don't. They don't.
Tells us to do all the time, and I'm like, I get overwhelmed if I try and read the whole pattern. I'm like, oh, this.
Yeah, I like reading. I like reading step 1, and then I do step 1. Then I read step 2.
And then he messes up step 2. He has to go back and redo it again.
I do it in sections. So if I know I'm making a bodice part, I'll read that section. And then if I'm doing section. So I do it in sections so I don't get overwhelmed.
So maybe go on.
I was just gonna say, I think for me, like I might not understand and remember everything that I've read, but if I can get an overall picture and then I can then tackle each obstacle, for me that works. But everyone's
well done, Adam.
I think it's going to be unbearable for the rest of this episode.
There may be some of them, chose the wrong fabrics. Maybe that was just not out of choice. It was because they perhaps went running straight to the haberdashery and went, oh, lovely. And as you say,
you see, Adam raises a good point, because if you read the pattern all the way through, you would have then realised that you had to do that turn up on those trousers. And Deborah probably wouldn't have then chosen such that thick canvas, because it was a nice fabric, but to then do those trousers that needed to be turned up, she couldn't do that because it was
You
too
never know.
thick.
Maybe she thought, oh, if I get it really well pressed, maybe it'll get really stiff and stay there. Get a bit of starch on there or something, whatever. I don't know.
Might have done, but you never know. Perhaps she didn't read the pattern.
But I was going to say, with the patterns, you know, when you buy a pattern, it will tell you suggested fabrics and these are good options. I'm guessing there's none of that on the pattern that you get. No, I assumed that. I was like, that would be giving the game away completely. But I was like, you never know. Maybe at the very last step, these are the fabrics you should use.
We were looking everywhere for instructions. In the end, we were looking inside the envelope. Maybe it was on the little thing, where it fit them. But no, I wanted to say something about choice of fabric in this challenge, actually, because it was the same emphasis this week as it was for us last year. And they put the emphasis on it being durable for a kid. So like, in some ways, I can't really, blame Deborah for going for, a more durable fabric that's maybe got a twill weave in it or something. I don't know. There may be, I think there's certainly maybe some red herrings there to trip you up.
Yeah.
And we've often had this debate, haven't we? Because it's a sewing show. How much should be judged on colour or choice of fabric? Because it should just be the end product. So, and often in the comments we'll get that. Oh, you don't really want to talk about the choices of colour or choices of fabric. But actually,
you should, because like a couple of those from the other night, like they said, they ended up looking a bit like pajamas because they either hadn't contrasted the fabric or you couldn't see the contrasting thing. And that was part of the design of the thing. So, choice of fabric, okay, maybe not the weight of fabric and whether you choose to use cotton, linen or canvas or whatever, but certainly with the colours and the choices, that should be taken into consideration because that's what makes the garment look so good.
Look good, yeah, that's very true.
Well, let's go into a new feature that we've had on this challenge, the 11-minute call of who's going to go. Did you have any thoughts on the way it was edited within 11 minutes?
Well, that's only because we had the first few shows, we managed to do it in 11 minutes, but this week I started to panic.
I was going to say, I kind of worried. I wasn't chatting to them, but I only got to watch it today because I'm a wee bit behind.
It's all right.
I was worried about Jill because she was struggling with the ribbon.
The timeline of events was Jill was fine until we made our prediction.
Yeah, it was about 9:20 or 9:25 or something that we all started to then panic for Jill. We'd said
we went Angela.
We went with the edits because how it was like some foreshadowing, wasn't it, of Angela going, yeah, I've made hundreds of these. Didn't she say or something?
Yeah, she said, I've made these all the time. And it's just like, well, that's usually when it goes wrong.
Oh, that's it.
And then I was gutted because Annie seemed to be struggling. And I quite liked hers from last week. And so I didn't want to say it, but it was just like, oh, God, those are the two. And then as soon as we kind of did our predictions, Jill started to go wildly wrong. And I wanted to cry because I love Jill's work. It was just like, oh, no, it's going to be Jill this week. And they hid who went home very well until the end of the show.
And I suppose that must be interesting for you, Adam, being in the series when you were watching it, how it's edited. That must be fascinating.
Yeah, I think because I come from an entertainment background, particularly, I have a little bit of an understanding of like how theatre works and how production works, and it is an entertainment program as well. Of course it's about the sewing, but yeah, it is edited interestingly, and I think that it's, well, I just want to say anybody that goes on is A, really, really brave, B, really deserves to be there in whatever happens and however it's edited, and I think because we're watching it so often, we're becoming to akin to, a few of the editing tricks, shall we say.
That's where they need to mix it up, though, keep us on our toes, which they kind of did this week.
I think they did. So we had some lovely makes, and I think it was clear that Manise was at the top. She was placed first in this round. It did really stand above a lot of them, didn't you think? That love, the choice of the anchors, the colours.
That was what made me think of Adam, because I thought that's what you would have used.
Absolutely. I mean, I think with this kind of outfit, and whenever there's anything that's really traditional, you can't help but see that outfit in the navy and white.
Yeah.
So to go anywhere outside of that, but then there is a tendency to think, well, maybe I should, go outside of that a little bit. We had the same with the Breton top that we did. Like, that was traditionally navy and white, and I remember doing like a rainbow one because I thought, I need to do something different. So there can be that pressure as well.
Oh, never thought of that. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
But I think that's the thing, is that you're so used to seeing it as navy and white, but it's okay to choose a different color, but you have to keep that contrast. The navy and white are so
and Jill did do that.
You want to choose two different colors, make sure they're still that far apart from each other, so that when you bring them together,
a lot of them did do it, but some of the ribbon didn't contrast as well, because I think on Jill's, certain parts of it didn't contrast with the ribbon and things like that.
Yes,
some of them, all of them had that a wee bit.
A yellow back bit, wasn't it? And Annie's didn't contrast really at all. It was just all of a blur, wasn't it, with the blue?
Yeah.
What about Christian again? Our one where we're going, he's going to go a long way. Second again.
Well, it was always the bridesmaid and never the bride this week for him, weren't it? I felt bad for him.
Yeah, but he did some lovely sewing.
He did some brilliant work.
He was another one where, that's nice and clean.
Yeah, I think we said a couple of episodes ago, didn't we? He's like just coming through, but he's there. He knows, doesn't he? He's doing really well.
Yeah.
So the standings for that was Annie 8th, Jill 7th, and then Angela 6th, and then the top end, Marnie 3rd, Christian 2nd, Manny 1st. But all happy with the judges there, and no slippers throwing in that round?
No. The slippers were still firmly on.
Move on to the transformation challenge. I know some people love it, some people hate it. School uniform, having to turn it into. And I think this was the cool bit where I started to get a bit, sort of tetchy with the voting, the judging, was to turn it into a cool outfit, not to be worn at school. So I was like, that's going to be the hard thing. How are you going to judge cool? What's cool?
It wasn't only that. I'm sorry. Slippers ready, aimed, and ready to go. Because I don't care what you say, it's about kids. There is no way they want another outfit made out of school uniform. You hate your school uniform. I remember I went to a middle school and our uniform was lilac and purple. And even now, I can't, it's just like a horrible colour. And, it's like, hello, darling. Look, I've made you this lovely new outfit out of 7 gingham dresses that you had lying around. It's like that child would go, no, it's all right. I'll put a match to that. Thanks. It's full uniform. You don't want anything made out of that. You want that in the bin.
Okay. I know, but what if it's unnecessary? What if it's, they have to have something? I'm just thinking, we've gone back to Sound of Music. They want to have play clothes that they can ruin outside.
Oh, I'd rather rip my curtains down. Adam's going to run them up for me.
What did you think,
I'm
Adam?
also curious as to why you have 7 dresses at home, Ting, that you're making into outfits.
You don't know how many dresses I've got in these wardrobes back here.
I bet you've not got more than me.
We'll compare notes afterwards.
What do you think you would have done, Adam, being in that position?
No, do you know what? For me, and it's interesting talking about the sewing, but also the design and colour and everything. And I'm quite drawn to fabrics and colour. And for me, it was difficult because there was a lot of greys in there, a lot of burgundies, and then like colours that didn't really go. And the colour that you had got were very pastel. For me, I think I would have struggled with this one. I don't know, and with it being kids, you can't drape as much, which is why I thought the hoodies and anybody who went down that route kind of, for me, conformed to what had been set out as like a cool garment. I know it's difficult in terms of making the school uniform cool, but yeah, I've probably gone down the hoodie route, and I was really impressed with everybody.
They were the least recognisable as school clothes that have been transformed. I thought, they'd look less like school.
Well, I didn't think Marnie's or Christian's, which were both hoodies, didn't think they looked like school uniform at all.
No, exactly. I agree.
I thought they did really well.
Yeah.
And were cool.
Yeah, well, your definition of cool is...
So they went down down that route. Then we had a few sort of dresses. So we had Brogan with a sort of gingham black dressy number.
Oh, that was the one I said looked like a harness, wasn't
Oh.
wasn't it? Or was that the actual one? No, was that the other one?
Or was it Angela's black and red gingham?
No, she had didn't she have the black bit up here and it looked like, and then like the red thing and it looked like a harness?
The one that won, I think, wasn't it? Angela's, yeah.
No, I thought that was Brogan. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, Brogan did it with the spangly shoulders and they were kind of ribbed straps.
Yeah, but with black though, wasn't it?
Yeah, black and
red. Yeah, because it was black and red. It just kind of looked a bit risque to me from a distance.
What do you get up to on the weekends, Ting? Your own business. But it was a really big transformation as well. You know, if you're thinking, it was from one extreme to the other. So that was quite good.
What about Manny's dungarees?
I thought they were really sweet. I don't know how cool they were, but they were really sweet.
Well, dungarees are kind of in, because I was going to say actually for the third challenge when we get onto that, I was going to bring up dungarees because I've got dungarees for my niece, and they're kind of, you know, for kids they're kind of in at the moment. So
I also have a pair of dungarees. I'm clearly one of the kids. It's fine.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. But I really liked my niece. Hers was one of my favorites.
Well, considering the time, there was a lot of work with that, with the applique. Did she put the letter on?
Yeah.
Was this the A for anarchy?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think she did a cracking job with that, and I thought her daisy trim was really complemented the fabrics that she'd got a choice of quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of them did all right. I think that was the one where Jill's transformation was noticeably not as good as the others. I felt really bad for her because when you lined them all up, it was like, oh, it was really good. I liked the concept of it, and if she'd managed to pull it off, it would have been really good.
Well, again, that's where I started to panic, because obviously last week she'd had such a good week, and that bed sheet dress, duvet dress thing was phenomenal, and obviously got her garment of the week, and she's done some good sewing as well. And it was kind of like we got through to the second challenge and it was like, oh no, Jill's gonna go, and I'm like, no, she can't go.
Well, she was one from bottom for the pattern challenge, and now we're seeing the judging and seeing the greyness of it, and it just the sort of the tracky bottoms stroke joggers.
And then we had which was coined earlier for the previous years, we had Joe's curse, didn't we?
Oh, we'll get on to that. And what about Deborah's blue, just a blue blob play suit thing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was
hers was the play suit with the waistcoat.
Yeah.
I
didn't think it looked too schooly. Like, did you?
It didn't look.
Yeah, it did. It looked like you'd chucked over if you had to go out after school. It looked like you'd grabbed something to just chuck over the top and dash out the door. Do you know what I mean?
The coolness. I just go on.
No, I'm just going back to Deborah's. Like, it can be really, really hard, and I think that in a heteros tramp, I think I remember her saying, like, I don't know whether it's much of a transformation from being school uniform. I think I remember her saying as she was making. And sometimes, you know, it goes your way and the creative juices are flowing, and then sometimes it just doesn't. You know, and I'm testament to that.
But with 90 minutes, once you've gone down a certain road and you've gone so far, you can't turn around and suddenly go, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to sack it all off and start again, because you've only got 90 minutes, haven't you?
Absolutely. And she did some great sewing with the play suit itself, but the others, that's where sort of the others were bigger transformations. And when you're sort of grading people from one to the other, it's a bit more competitive.
When they were judging, if you were to rewind it, watch it, just look when Esme comes in and sees Angela's for the first time. She fell in love with that right from the beginning. When you look at her face,
I'll have to rewatch.
She might have actually fitted into it as well. She was like, "I'll wear that."
Yeah, I think she loved it, and I don't know, it did make an impact, and she came first for that. So we had Angela first, Christian second again, with his unisex hoodie, Manny third. And then down the other end, Annie 6th, Deborah 7th, and Jill 8th. and going into this round now, the made to measure, I think that's where some sewers must have struggled with that, because it perhaps called upon, because it was in the brief, wasn't it? Patrick said they want something it's Halloween costume, but they want something 3D and a bit of humour.
I think with this challenge, like for the kids one and the fancy dress outfit, for me it was more on the impact of what it had walking down that catwalk. Yeah. And of course it's still about the sewing, but it felt like the impact prevailed in this one with that 3D element. So that's where my head would be going. And I mean, I think everybody did fantastically. And I was just absolutely gutted for Marnie and the fact that her idea was there. It was just a case of that tubing just didn't work. Wasn't rigid enough. And she did everything she could to try and save it. And I was like, come on, because she was like sewing in, I don't know if it was boning or something at the bottom. Yeah. And I was like, come on, that's got to work. That's got to work. And unfortunately, it's just sometimes you can't plan what's going to happen in that room.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and as you say, Ting, sometimes you're used to working with this type of sewing with fancy dress, so you perhaps know how to alter it. But if you're just used to garment making, that is sort of difficult.
Yeah, you're not going to have gone to the local pet shop and picked yourself up some tubing for the swim, for the fishes, and added it to a dress. Like, because she even added lights and everything, you know what I mean? So she had other details. It was just, that was the one thing that, Yeah,
as you say, that end, because it was about the impact, the 3D, it just didn't then have that, did it?
No.
It was the idea of the dark fairy.
Yeah.
But there was a couple that I felt that we lost that impact, and I don't know. I know we often go on about whether, because this is the one you're told, oh, they've had chance to practice this outfit, and so both the two spiders, Manyi and Angela's, the legs just didn't work, and you just think, well, have you practiced that and then perhaps looked at that and thought, oh no, that's fine, or have you thought, oh, hang on, because that was the thing that Esme picked up with both of those. And then, like with Marnie's, I'm not saying she didn't practice it, but maybe she'd practiced it and it went perfectly well, and like you say, it's just a bad day. But the whole 3D element must have been hard to just say, well, I'm going to practice with this, but I need to go and buy a load of construction material, let alone fabric. And yeah, it just was a difficult one to practice, I think, for this week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the legs didn't work, but I was just looking at some of the material, like Manyi's material, that hairy material, that would have been a nightmare to sew with. Can I just say, it's like that looked thick and a mess.
Didn't she have the glue gun out at the end, splitting the yellow one? That's what
that was to stick the eyes on, wasn't it? I mean, I would have just glue gunned the whole thing and hoped for the best. But
that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. With these sort of outfits, they're only designed to last for a party, aren't they?
Yeah, but some of them were epic. I loved Christian's clown. That was amazing. That was just, I was coming down and I was just chuckling away to myself.
I was like,
we loved the sewing and thought he'd done another spectacular job skills wise, but we were like, oh, clowns.
Yeah, it was Halloween to me, but as an adult, it's like it was horrible Halloween, and I didn't know how that fitted in really.
Well, it clearly had the right effect on you. It gave you the heebies. Do you know what I mean?
I know, but it's.
You just needed to give him a balloon, and he could have walked out with that.
I don't know. Oh, hello, little one. I didn't know whether, if you're doing it for kids, whether a kid would understand, why am I wearing a clown?
Well, no, because they do. Before he didn't have a horrible makeup on.
Yeah. I was going to say clowns were fun. I really liked Miss Havisham. That was epic. When it came down, I was like, oh, wow.
Absolutely fabulous, that outfit. And do you know what? I was watching, I was like, oh, somebody's going to do a witch or something. And I could almost, I might be wrong, but like in the Dickens novel, like she's almost like a witch of that mansion almost. And it was like a different take on a gothic. It was really gothic and really and what a great literary what's the word I'm looking for,
crossover.
Yes. That'll do. I loved it. Was fabulous.
It was the headdress that really finished that off. It really added the creepy vibes. It's like, oh yes, I loved it.
And I think, again, you know, Deborah, she has got some really good skills. This one didn't have as high neck as the previous.
No. On the Riviera.
But I thought she did phenomenally well. I loved it. And I actually do like Deborah. I just don't like the high neck.
What about Brogan's bat?
Now,
Go on.
Go for it.
I don't know. I was a little bit angry watching this because it felt like she got a lot of criticism for this. And I actually quite liked it. I thought that's kind of thing that, you know, I know it was an umbrella in off, but I thought, yeah, that works for me. I thought it was quite impactful, but I don't know. It came in harsh with her, I think.
I think so as well.
They criticised like the ears and everything. And I was just like, yeah, but that's like a tiny little headband part of the whole costume. You know, the overall effect was actually there, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I was going to say the dress that she did, those are the sort of the dresses you get for a fancy dress, you know, for kids in the various shops, and they kind of look similar to that. And then you add the bat wings. And I was like, that you could see lots of wee girls wearing that around at Halloween. That was really nice. But maybe it wasn't bat-like enough. It wasn't enough of a literal translation for them or whatever. But
well, Esme said when they have that little blurb about what they're looking for, that's when Patrick said wants it 3D. She said, oh, I want to be surprised, to have something unexpected. So maybe it was that. Maybe it was, that's a bat. There's nothing else to say. So
what
maybe
did she want her to do? Jump up and bite her on the neck?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, that must have been what was on her criteria, wasn't it? The others... Were there surprise elements and unexpected elements of the others?
Yeah, I thought the dragon. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Forget that.
Oh my God, it was epic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she even she poked her finger in the nostrils and everything. She's like, you've got nostrils and everything. It was brilliant. I thought that was amazing. I thought it would actually, I know we're going to talk about Garment of the Week, but between it and Miss Havisham, I actually preferred like the dragon. I thought it was really cool. Like it was proper structural and, you know.
Yeah,
it
was clever. Awesome. Fabric.
The only thing it reminded me of is the fabric was that fabric you used for that costume for me for the Christmas tree that was plastic and that basically you can't sweat through. And so all I can think of is this poor child was probably getting pools of sweat in that tail because you can't breathe through that fabric.
Breathing out fire.
And it's the thing, isn't it? The idea, finding the fabric, where they find the fabric and practicing with it, that probably looked like an expensive fabric too. So as you say, it must be hard when you're practicing during the week on, like you said, Adam, was it your raincoat, the jacket? You didn't practice with that because it was expensive.
Yeah, and that's it. Like there's a budget there, and you know, and you've got a budget for the day, but then, you know, without giving too much away, you've got to resource things for yourself to practice in. And like, okay, if you know you're making a dress out of a nice cotton or whatever, well, yeah, you can make a toile out of calico or whatever. But with something like that, working with stretch as well, because that looked like it was that spandexy type stuff. I've used it. We used it in one of the challenges we did. And I thought she did fabulously, and that she'd done that whole jumpsuit and sewing that stuff, it could quite easily go wrong, but then to get the detail in that dragon's head, again, it was the headpiece that won it very much with Havisham and the headpiece. For me, the headpiece on that was show-stopping. I
would have thought that if Deborah's wasn't as good as it was, I would have thought the dragon would have taken that.
Yeah.
It must have been a hard call between those two, to be fair.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can imagine. Yeah.
And then obviously we had Jill's Dalek.
Oh, that was quite fun.
As a Doctor Who fan, you knew it was a Dalek, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Adam, you got very excited to say something and then stopped. What were you going to say?
I'm just going to say, I don't watch Doctor Who. I don't think I've ever watched one. But being somebody that isn't into that kind of thing, I knew what it was instantly. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You can't help but you get away from knowing what a Dalek is. And I thought, and it was just Jill's excitement when she'd got that little girl in it. She was like, "You look amazing." And she was like really geeing her up, and she was like, Yeah, absolutely. And I think she said to the kids, I know you don't know what a Dalek is, but trust me, you look brilliant. And I think she did really well. Again, really inventive.
Yeah, and to come back from having such woeful previous
I was going to
session
say
the
there
day
was probably
before.
an element of relief in there as well, because she kind of knew that the first couple of challenges hadn't really gone her way, but this one, she'd seemed to pull it off. Well, she did pull it off.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and she got the applique there with all the Dalek sort of rivets, and then that humour element that they asked for, or the 3D element as well. With, you know, if you were a kid and holding the exterminate, what is it? Normally a toilet plunge, no, a sink plunge.
No, the arm is the toilet plunge.
Oh yes, yes. Whatever it is on here. I'd want to be. I'd enjoy it as a kid playing around with that and going up to someone, exterminate.
You don't normally let him out by himself. I'm very sorry, Adam. It's gone a bit wrong.
So we're going right now into the end, going right. Jill saved herself. Deborah saved herself because they were bottom in the previous rounds. And
Angela was still in trouble because that spider hadn't worked.
And that's where I then, when they announced that it was Marnie, we were like, this is good judging, because Angela did come first in the transformation challenge. So that's accounted for something, because they couldn't have sent her home, could they, after coming first?
No, but Angela didn't do very well in the first challenge.
No, she was 6. That's right. So she was in the bottom 3.
You know, given that Marnie had been hidden in the rankings with the other 2 challenges, we weren't really even considering. I mean, I did worry about her when she was doing the final challenge because it wasn't going her way. But part of it was, well, she did quite well in the other 2 challenges. And Angela, you know, the spider didn't seem to work and she hadn't done well in the other one, although she'd done well in the transformation. So to me, it was kind of like, oh, well, Angela is probably going to go. And there was a little bit of relief because I thought, well, we called it. Maybe we did get it right.
Yeah.
And then Marnie just came out of nowhere and it was kind of a bit of a shock and, you know, almost a slipper moment there, I would have thought.
I was also surprised when she went. I mean, as you say, when you look back and you go, okay, fair enough. But I was a wee bit surprised. But as you say, it came down to that impact. And you know, we talk about, oh, it's the sewing, but every week is all very much about impact with that final sew. It's the wow factor of walking down the runway and, you know, having that woohoo. And sadly, hers clearly wasn't as impactful as the rest, because everybody else, you know, there was a lot of good sewing. But
The pressure, Adam, of that round, you got to week 5. Did you feel that as each week went on, the pressure for that day make of the made to measure just increased? How did you cope with that?
It's exhausting. I'm not going to lie. I only did, as you know, to 5, and it can get exhausting. We were filming it like, you know, we don't film it one a week and then we have a week off, and it's filmed in a filming schedule, so you might have a day between each shoot, and with that, like, you've got the uncertainty of like a pattern challenge and what they're going to chuck at you to make in 90 minutes, and that in itself is exhausting. But then you've got like a 5 hour or 4.5 hour, whatever it is, made to measure that, yeah, you've practiced and done it, but you know, it's can I pull it off in the time frame? I mean, if I'm being completely honest, me personally, I didn't set a stopwatch and go, right, I'm going to go and do it. Like, I know for me, normally, like, I can work quite well under pressure. And if I over prepare, sometimes I can go wrong. But, you know, that's not an excuse for me, you know, making a naff raincoat. It just happened. But it's like, yeah, it is exhausting. And the pressure does mite up. And I remember looking around the room when that time's up, and everybody is so good and there's clearly talent there. I mean, I can never forget, he won't mind me saying this, I don't think, Damien in week 1 when we were on, and, you know, he'd done what he'd done in the first 2 challenges, and then we finished the made to measure, and I was like, who's this actress on there? And somebody, I can't remember, said to me, it's Damien's, and I went, wow, blow me over and tickle me with a feather. I was like, you obviously can sew, that's why he's here, but wow. Do you know, and for some people, you can either really pull it back at that moment, or it can go against you. It's tough, but the pressure's tough and it's exhausting. So, it's enjoyable.
So, you know, obviously, you're focused on whatever you're making in that made to measure. Do you essentially block out everything that's going around, so you don't really pay much attention to what's going on with all the other contestants? So there is kind of a bit of a, oh wow, you've actually done really well when you see the finished items.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, in that instance, because Damien, the place where he had in the first two, it was like, you know, I've said that to his face, he won't mind me saying that, but it's kind of like, you are in a little bit of a bubble. You get little glimpses of what's happening, and I was aware of what's happening around me, but the studio space when we were filming is so big to keep us apart as much as we could for COVID, that there was physical distance, and then you've got like a big shout out to the camera team and the production crew that make this wonderful program, because there's so many people involved and there's cameras in everywhere and people asking you stuff, and when you do get that 5 minutes of not having a camera on you, well, your head's down and you're just trying to advance as much as you can.
It does amaze me when you watch it, when you think about all the contestants and the camera angles. You never see a rogue camera in the background, do you?
They're really well orchestrated, and that's the magic of television, isn't it? In terms of, like, I don't want to give too much away behind the scenes, but you've got a big production team now, you know, a lot of people, and they do amazingly not to get a rogue camera, as you say.
Well, it's brilliant, and it's mainstream telly, and seeing crafting and sewing on TV, which is great, and that's why we're here, because we just like talking about it even more. So to finish then, Garment of the Week, Anya, went to Deborah. Were you cheering then?
Yes, well, I was between that and the dragon, so I was pleased.
Yeah. Ting?
No, I was pleased with that, yeah.
And Adam, you said you liked the Mrs. Havisham from the beginning, yeah?
Yeah, I love the literary reference, and and like Anya says, between that and the dragon, that was a tough call. But I think this week's judgment has been a tough call.
Yeah.
And
what
then
about you? Were you excited as well, Stuart? You keep asking us, but you never tell us yourself.
Yeah.
For the Halloween one, well, I confess, as I said to Ting, I don't know who Miss Havisham is. I've got to stop reading the Beano and Dandy. I was like I didn't know who's that. I said,
what teacher? That? Can you tell me what teacher you were?
I know, I was a drama teacher, head of drama too.
He was an English teacher.
Were you?
I was, yes.
Yeah. You were, and you've never heard of Great Expectations?
No.
Well, my expectations of you are to go and read that book.
I've got my homework for sure. And we had to say goodbye to Marnie, gutted, because that first episode, well, the sewers of week 1 of Series A blew us all away. The standards were phenomenal of those jackets. Was that week 1 or week 2? But Marnie in particular, I think I said it, I thought she was going to be in the final 3.
But it goes back to poor Adam here as well. It was just a bad week for her. It was the same with Adam. He'd done so well in those first few weeks. And that one day, that one make, and it was the same with Marnie. She'd done well even in the first half of the programme. But that just didn't work. At the structural element just wasn't working. And you could see the frustration in her face. But I thought she was going to be safe. So there was kind of a bit of a half-hearted slipper, because I thought, you know, it was just one thing she'd done wrong, where, like I said, Angela had seemed to clock 2 heavy criticisms this week. And so I thought she, you know, got a ticket and was...
Well, that lead us nicely into slipper rating. So what's that? 1 slipper thrown for children?
Well, no, I didn't like the school uniforms, so that's a slipper. I didn't like the fact that it was just fancy dress anyway in general, so that's a slipper. And then there was like a half-hearted slipper over the Marnie going home. So whether it's 2.5, 3 could be
2 and a
yeah.
I don't know, I was like 2.5, and I was going to say.
And I know everyone in the comments of these videos, they're slightly concerned that I've mellowed over time, but I do think that the judging has been better
This
this series, and it's normally the judging where I'm just like, well, you're not being consistent. You've said one thing and then you're judging them on the other. You've talked that you want it to be about the fabric and then it turns out to be about the pattern, and it was always inconsistencies there where it's like someone sat them down and gone, now listen, you need to make sure that you're doing your job properly, and I can't argue with that. If they're judging fairly, that's all I ask.
Well, it's certainly how it's coming across. And I know other people see things differently, but from our point of view, that's how it came across last year, didn't it?
Yeah.
But certainly this year, it's coming across as on the ball. No slippers being thrown. We're not arguing. We're not shouting. We're not going, what?
I was going to say, well, no, me and Ting are still having the odd argument, so it's
Oh,
okay.
of
We're
course.
still getting them in a bit. It's fine.
Just by the by. It's got to be.
We love each other,
no
really.
one will watch if we don't have that.
It's when we start to agree you have to worry.
Yes, yeah.
So we're halfway through the season. Come on, people. Have you got one who you want in the final now? Just can we say a name who you want in the final? No.
Still
I
not
have
looking
a
at it.
long list, and most of them are there. So
They are. That's the thing, aren't they? There are so many. You know, when you go through that list, Christian, Stunning Soa, Deborah, all the names, Man Yi, Jill, Annie, they're all coming out, aren't they? It's going to get hard now on who we lose each week, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is when the slipper could come out a bit more, because if they start going a bit rogue on the judging.
Future weeks. What have we got coming up next week? I didn't see the profile. The lead in. Does anyone know what it is next week?
It's music week, isn't
It's
it?
music, yes. Isn't it disco or something?
Well, I think, was there a reference to David Bowie or Bowie at the end?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's music, not like musicals, it's music.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting because that's not one we've had before.
No, that'll be good fun. And if it's got a bit of David in there, then winning.
As long as they're not making a
Everybody's
jumpsuit.
quiet.
As long as they're not making a jumpsuit, because there's not enough talc on earth that would get me into a jumpsuit.
Speaking of jumpsuits, did you hear the news that they're bringing Challenge Annika back?
No.
Yes.
What, with Annika?
Yes. Yeah.
Loved it.
She's hard up.
No, not at all. But go onto her Twitter, and there's a lovely little thing of her a couple of days ago doing a little reveal in her bed, and then she takes the duvet off, and there she is in a jumpsuit.
Yeah. And she's got her mic man there as well.
If I had a choice of Annika programs, though, I'd want Treasure Hunt back. That was way more exciting.
But to be fair, I love them both. I loved a bit of Challenge Annika. That was awesome.
So, Adam, have you been inspired to make anything from what you've seen? Are you going to do a patchwork quilted jacket from last week?
Do you know what? Yeah, I'd really like to make one of those, actually.
Make sure you quilt the back, because that was the issue from last week.
You do it however you like. You ignore Ting. It's fine.
Do you know what, though? It's like I'm not predominantly a quilter or patchwork or anything, but, you know, I've practiced, like, recently. I've been doing a few little projects and, like, doing mited corners and things like that. And I think I've got that kind of stuff now. But, yeah, that's been really inspiring. I'm not sure. I loved that it was something different with the shoes in whatever episode that was in. But I was kind of like, oh, no, are we going to argue?
No, he hated the shoes.
I hate
No, but I was going to say,
Anya
how
loved the
practical
shoes.
they would be. I wouldn't make them. I love that it was something different because it was outside the box. But I don't think I'm going to go and make my own shoes anytime soon. But
no one would. To be quite, that's a very sensible.
well, you say that.
Anya did.
Loads of people looking for kits. Honestly,
Yeah, that's what you see. Adam also looks on Instagram and looks at these things as well. It's not just me, Ting. You just live in your own
No,
world.
but then how many of those kits have ended up in their wheelie bin?
well, I don't know. There's some kind of kits that are like espadrilles, which were probably maybe a little bit easier. I don't know.
No, I think they probably would be, yeah.
Yeah, and I think yes, and you could even knit or crochet those as well, I think. Well, there we are.
It's worse. Nothing worse than a crocheted
crocheted croc.
On that note, everyone, it's been lovely having you here with us, Adam. Week 5 Children's Week. Lovely to reminisce of your Children's Week last year too. Hope you enjoyed it. Lovely chatting to you and Ting and Anya too. And join us next week we're in the latter half now of the season, episode 6, week 6, which is, as we said, Music Week. So look forward to seeing you all next week. So thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.